The year 1831 marked a significant turning point in American history, particularly in the struggle for abolition and the rights of enslaved individuals. As the nation grappled with the consequences of the 1808 ban on the importation of enslaved Africans, tensions were running high in the South. In the midst of this charged atmosphere, a man named Nat Turner emerged as a leader and symbol of resistance, ultimately leading one of the most infamous slave rebellions in American history. A troubled South. In the years following the ban on the importation of enslaved Africans in 1808, the American South found itself in a state of turmoil. The institution of slavery had deep roots in the region's culture and economy, and many slaveholders were unwilling to give up their economic advantage and the perceived social order that came with it. Slavery, rather than diminishing, had expanded and entrenched itself in Southern society. The South's reliance on slavery was in stark contrast to the growing abolitionist sentiment in the North. Abolitionists argued that slavery was a moral stain on the nation and a violation of the principles of liberty and equality upon which the United States was founded. The stark contrast between the North and the South created a growing rift that would eventually lead to the outbreak of the Civil War. The life of Nat Turner. Born into slavery in Southampton County, Virginia, in 1800, Nat Turner would become a pivotal figure in the struggle for freedom. He grew up on the Turner plantation, and from a young age, it was clear that he possessed intelligence and a deep religious fervor. These qualities would shape his destiny in profound ways. Nat Turner was deeply religious, and he believed that he had been chosen by God for a special purpose. He spent much of his time reading and studying the Bible, and he became known among his fellow enslaved individuals for his knowledge of Scripture and his gift for preaching. Turner's religiosity, coupled with the harsh realities of slavery, led him to develop a fervent belief in the righteousness of a violent rebellion against the oppressive system. The spark of rebellion. As Turner grew older, he became increasingly convinced that he had received divine instructions to lead his people out of bondage. He saw signs and visions in the natural world that he interpreted as messages from God, telling him that the time for action had come. On the night of August 21st, 1831, Nat Turner and a small group of followers began their revolt. Their first target was the Travis family, the slave-holding family who owned Turner and many others. In a brutal and violent attack, the rebels killed the Travis family, sparing only a few individuals, including a young girl. With each act of violence, Nat Turner's rebellion gained momentum and terrorized the white population of Southampton County. The rebellion spreads. As news of the rebellion spread, fear and panic gripped the region. The enslaved population, some motivated by Turner's message and others coerced or terrified, joined the rebellion. The rebels moved from plantation to plantation, their numbers swelling as they went. Their goal was to strike fear into the hearts of their oppressors and to inspire a mass uprising against slavery. The methods employed by Turner and his followers were brutal and indiscriminate. They used knives, hatchets, and other crude weapons to bludgeon and stab their victims. The violence was extreme, and there seemed to be no end in sight. The local white population was unprepared for the sudden and ferocious rebellion. The response of the authorities. As news of the rebellion continued to spread, the local and state authorities in Virginia swung into action. Governor John Floyd called out the state militia to suppress the uprising, and they were joined by armed groups of white vigilantes. The response was swift and ruthless. In the days that followed, the authorities conducted a brutal campaign of repression, hunting down and capturing or killing the rebels. Many of those involved in the rebellion were executed on the spot without trial. The violence on both sides escalated, with atrocities committed by both the rebels and the white militias. The end of the rebellion. Despite their initial success in sowing terror, Nat Turner and his followers were eventually cornered by the overwhelming force of the state militia and vigilantes. Turner himself managed to evade capture for several weeks, but on October 30th, 1831, he was finally apprehended. Turner was put on trial and quickly found guilty of inciting the rebellion. On November 11, 1831, he was hanged in Southampton County. His body was then flayed, beheaded, and quartered as a gruesome warning to others who might contemplate rebellion. The message was clear. Any attempt to challenge the institution of slavery would be met with extreme and brutal reprisals. The aftermath. The aftermath of Nat Turner's rebellion was swift and severe. In the immediate aftermath, dozens of enslaved individuals who had been accused of participating in the rebellion were executed or sold off to distant plantations. White paranoia and fear in the South intensified, leading to harsher slave codes and even more restrictive regulations on enslaved individuals. In response to the rebellion, many Southern states passed even stricter laws governing enslaved individuals. These laws restricted their movement, limited their access to education, and curtailed their rights in nearly every aspect of life. The revolt had the unintended consequence of making life even more difficult for the enslaved population in the South. Nat Turner's legacy. Nat Turner's rebellion had a lasting impact on American history and the abolitionist movement. While the rebellion itself was ultimately unsuccessful in achieving its goals, it served as a stark reminder of the brutality of slavery and the lengths to which some enslaved individuals would go to secure their freedom. In the North, the news of the rebellion reignited the abolitionist movement. Abolitionist publications, such as William Lloyd Garrison's The Liberator, covered the rebellion extensively, using it as evidence of the inherent cruelty of slavery. Many Northern abolitionists saw Turner as a hero, a symbol of resistance against an unjust system. The year 1831 marked a crucial moment in the history of slavery and abolition in the United States. Nat Turner's unsuccessful had a profound impact on the nation. It highlighted the brutal realities of slavery and served as a catalyst for both increased repression in the South and renewed fervor in the North's abolitionist movement. As the United States continued to grapple with the consequences of the 1808 ban on the importation of enslaved Africans, the events of 1831 underscored the deep divisions within the country. The question of slavery would continue to dominate American politics and society in the years to come, ultimately leading to the Civil War and the eventual end of slavery in the United States. Nat Turner's rebellion and the legacy of resistance it left behind would be remembered as a crucial chapter in the long struggle for freedom and equality in America.